So I just watched the Air Sign Daily Horoscope from VG Spiritual Investigator. All right, and I want to go ahead and clarify something on the regular one, not the one that was a PSA. But that PSA is much appreciated. Thank you. But I wanted to go ahead and clarify on what was said about being a cutter. All right, because I'm gonna go ahead and squash that right quick. All right. So imagine for years, you have people going ahead and trying to down talk you, trying to be like, oh, no, I've met you before. Like, you don't belong anywhere in the psychology field. Like, literally, there's no reason you should end up going ahead and, going and studying on that. And the fucked up part is, like, all right, the last time that I've put a blade to my skin was like 2006. All right. So 2006. It's 2025. All right. So that's 19 years. Going ahead and trying to use as a extortion tactic, being like, no, they got mental health issues. They're a cutter and everything, but haven't cut in 19 years. That's like going ahead and saying somebody's a smoker, but they haven't touched a cigarette in like 50 years, you know? So is the person still a smoker when they haven't touched a cigarette in 50 years? And I know I kept my reason as far as the motivation when it comes down to, the double major between criminal justice as the major and, psychology as the minor, hoping to become a disability advocate to help people whose civil liberties end up getting oppressed, through means of conservatorships, predatory, involuntary hospitalizations, you know, like the psychology factor. It is the factor with the cutting factor that was my motivating factor of why I wanted to go ahead to go to school for psychology, regardless of the factor of that being a female dominated field. All right. Back when I was cutting, I would cut so deep that there was actually a point in time that with my right leg, I almost accidentally severed an artery. All right. If that artery would have severed, I would have killed myself, not meaning to. So that was my wake up call. All right. Just like my wake up call of something's got to give, I got to get my life together, was ending up in that fucking coma, you know? And people being like, oh, you didn't change, you didn't change, you didn't change, while perceiving the worst of me. It's like, do you know what it's like to end up in a coma? Nobody telling you the actual time period that you were in that coma. And while you were in that coma, that quote unquote long nap, that severing from time, all right, what felt like what apparently it was like a year somewhere around there. I don't know how long I was actually in that coma. All right. But while in that coma, imagine over 20 years worth of events all playing out in the brain. All right. Your physical body, you're not able to talk. You're not able to open your eyes. You are able to hear, but you're not able to move. And on top of that, because of rumors that people wanted to put into motion, intentional neglect from the medical staff, not wanting to turn me over to the point of literal bed bugs forming inside my body and crawling out. Do you know what it's like to become a literal nest for bugs? I'm posting this one on YouTube so I can go ahead and keep on. I'll go ahead and share it on Facebook, but my point on this is that coma, I don't know a single person that wouldn't be a wake up call for. To be honest with you, I personally think when it comes down to, you know, capital punishment instead of death row, if you were to go ahead and put the people that would be on death row in medically induced comas and have them just sleep, they wouldn't be able to hurt anybody. Guards wouldn't have to worry about if they're going to murder you or not, because what do they got to lose? They're about to be killed anyway. Wouldn't have to worry about any technicalities when it comes down to their civil rights being, violated or getting due process or anything like that, you know? And periodically waking those individuals up. And when you wake them up, put them through civics training. That right there, that recidivism, that would do wonders. But my point on that is, if somebody hasn't put a blade to their skin since 2006, so we're talking 19 years, how much of a potential threat are they of hurting themselves? That is quite literally the biggest load of shit and cop out that I have ever fucking heard. My question to ask anybody is, do you still have the desire to do the same things now, currently, in your current life, that you had 19 years ago? Because the funny thing is, I'm 35. 19 years ago, what were my concerns? First off, wanted to go ahead and finish school. Second off, at that point, I had a hard time staying alone and being alone, you know? So I was concerned about never being alone. Third off, I was worried about friends, what people thought about me. Ultimately, the way that it could end up going ahead and impacting my ability to do what I want to do. Now, my concerns are make sure that paperwork, as far as everything that I have done, credential-wise, gets fixed. So that way, I could start making my money. Like we're talking making the proper market value on what my extensive work and education history ends up dictating that I deserve to make. Alright? I mean, I put in the work to learn the material, to go ahead and use that material in an attempt to try to better not only society, but individuals as well as myself. To be able to do a hard day's work, as far as that hard day's work being what is within my physical capability. I may be incapacitated physically, but that doesn't make me an idiot. So, That being said, yes, almost 20 years ago, I used to self injure. Yes, that was my motivating factor behind the psychology factor of wanting to go study for psychology. Yes, I did almost kill myself when I self injured. Alright? No, it is not the leg that is fucked up as far as my left leg. That was the leg that I used to self injure on. It was the right leg that I used to self injure on. So anyone trying to go ahead and be like, oh, no, we feel no remorse for the situation with your left leg because that was self inflicted. Like, save the drama for your mama. Name one fucking person that's ever self injured that has ever used their non dominant hand to self injure. Quite literally. Righty. Right thigh. So in that equation, that don't fucking add up. But clarified that, and ultimately, it should actually be encouraged to keep on that track. Simply for the factor of who better to understand the significance of mental health in somebody's life than somebody who, at one point in time in their life, had no regards for their own life. So, that being said, now you got the scoop on that. And, you know, also I do want to go ahead and clarify that sass. That sass was not for VG. That sass was for whoever the fuck wanted to go ahead and try to throw that in my face. Like it's, you know, oh yeah, fucking got them, fucking, you know, let's see them get out of that fucking corner. Because my response to them is, oh, address the situation, corrected the record, corrected the fucking behavior. Lost the impulse for that a long time ago. My self injury impulses were never connected to my anxiety. My self injury impulses were connected to a significant amount of the events at the time, with not even being able to walk out the front door without getting harassed by a fucking mob of teenagers while simultaneously having to go ahead and walk my ass to work, having to go ahead and finish shit with my school. Not to mention that, but I had just gotten out of a fucking group home, so we're talking an entire childhood of getting tossed around between foster homes and fucking group homes. So, yeah. In my opinion, it's pretty understandable for a teenager, you know, somebody who's supposed to have a massive fluctuation of hormones that they have an inability to be able to control in comparison to, you know, the less intense hormones of adolescence and toddlerhood. And then literally getting fucking targeted by entire fucking community. All because of the fact that technically the cops couldn't do anything about those teenagers because they technically did not break any laws until they threw that fucking chlorine bomb, which was considered chemical warfare and a fucking war crime. So, but before they ended up crossing that line, 4 years of harassment, almost 5 years of harassment, well, technically just not breaking the law, despite the factor that it could be perceived that harassing me was breaking the law.